Are you too busy, too stressed out, unhealthy? Then this is the place for you. Welcome to Balanced Living for Busy Professionals, where we help you create wellness and balance with a holistic approach that will work for you, even with the busiest of schedules, so you can live the life you want. And now, here's your host, Diane Randall.
Hello, everyone. I'm your host, Diane Randall. You're listening to Balanced Living for Busy Professionals, the podcast that provides the best inner tools and strategies to help you break free of habits and patterns that are keeping you stuck, even with the busiest schedules. Today, we're going to talk about balancing our lives from the inside out and how doing that can help us to open the door to our dreams. I'm so inspired because we have a very interesting guest today, Dr. Dorothy Martin-Neville. She's a PhD speaker, author, psychotherapist, and healer, and also a frequent radio television guest. And she's been featured on the Oprah Network along with other interviews for articles on the Huffington Post and more. Welcome, Dr. Dorothy.
Hello, thank you so much.
Can you tell us about a little bit more about you? I know I was reading about your childhood and how it didn't start out so great for you. Can you just tell us a little bit about that?
Oh, surely. I started in an orphanage. I was placed in an orphanage at birth, and I was there until I was about 3. And at 3 years of age, a man, my father, he wasn't my biological father, but my father found out that there was a girl in an orphanage, an Irish girl in an orphanage, and he's very proud of his Irish ancestry. And he didn't believe a girl should be there. And so he went to the orphanage and adopted me, much to the chagrin of his wife and her mother. And they all lived together. What was my older brother, my younger sister, and my mother and grandmother. And my grandmother insisted that she would never have an illegitimate child in her home. So although I was adopted by this man and taken to the housing projects, I was raised in the housing projects of South Boston, he was not allowed to bring me in the house because my grandmother did not want to see an illegitimate child in her home. So what he would do is get me up at 5:30 in the morning, put me in a sunsuit or a snowsuit, depending on the season, obviously, and take me downstairs and put me in a playpen where I would stay until 9:30 at night. And when my grandmother went to bed, he would come out and get me and bring me in and give me dinner and put me to bed, and then get me out again in the morning before she woke up. And this went on until I was 6 when she fell down and broke her hip. And at that point in time, I was allowed to live in the house with what was now a group of other brothers and sisters. They had several birth children. And so I now became a part of the family. And that really caused me to recognize the family it was, that he was very much an Irish alcoholic policeman and extremely violent, where we were beaten or whipped every single day until I was 17. But not really being a part of that house, I pretty much worked to keep my mother and brothers and sisters alive until I left. And at that point in time, realized, very few of us percentage-wise graduated from my high school because in the inner city, in the projects, you can have a large group start freshman year and a very small group gets to graduation. And at that point in time, you graduated in May, you got married in June, which was fine with me, but I also wanted so much more. My dad didn't leave in college, and I tried to go to nursing school and couldn't get in because I discovered, although I had good grades, I went to an unaccredited inner city school system.
Okay.
Therefore, no nursing school in the country could accept me because I had unaccredited biology and unaccredited chemistry. So that eliminated my options. And so I applied. I had a group of nuns in our town that were social workers, and I thought I wanted to be a social worker. I applied to join there and found out the Catholic Church did not allow illegitimate children in the convent. So that eliminated that possibility, I thought, until one of my teachers found out that I was going to get married. And I loved this boy. I mean, I was 17. Okay. What did you know at 17? But I loved him. But I just wanted more. And so she wrote to 1,000 communities around the globe, found one in Quebec that worked with prostitutes, and said they would be willing to take a risk on an illegitimate child because they were under the bishop, not the Pope. So I entered a French-Canadian community out of Quebec and became a Catholic nun. And while I was in, my Mother Superior said that she was going to send me to college. And she did. And when you have a long black habit on, it's amazing what can happen. And once you have your BA, nobody really cares where you went to high school. So after that, I went on and got my master's and ultimately my PhD. And life continues. You know, we all walk amazing paths. And very few of us walk straight, simple paths. So it's so important to develop a sense of humor and a real recognition that all of life is not about what happens to you. It's about the perspective you take on everything that happens to you.
Exactly. Because at the end of the day, it's all about learning from those things that happen. You've led such an incredible life. I was so inspired from your bio.
Thank you.
Tell me, when did you first open the door to your dreams? I know you do a lot of work on dreams. First, explain to us how you work with dreams.
Well, I believe fully that so many of us, especially women, but many of us, men and women, have no permission to follow our dreams. We are raised in a mentality of survival. We're raised in a mentality, so many of us, of just making it, just surviving and getting through the day, where you can get home and have a beer or watch television and close the doors and the windows and just take it easy. It's really about getting through our lives rather than living it. And I graduated from high school and I needed to make a choice. Was I going to do what I was supposed to do and become the woman I was supposed to become? And my father wanted my boyfriend and I to give him 20 grandchildren.
Okay.
That would be wonderful. And in the projects, big families weren't unusual.
Right.
The big families were usually 10 children, not 20. But my dad loved family and thought it was my job at this point in time to give him those 20 grandchildren. And I knew I had to, at some point I had to make a choice. Was I going to be married, stay at home? My mother said, get a job as a waitress until you're pregnant and then just stay at home and raise your family. So I had a choice of following that script, or I had the choice of wanting something more. And so when it became the realization that this is truly my life, this is in my hands. I have to make a decision, whichever one I make, that's going to be my life. And I chose that it wasn't against this man, this boy really, because I thought he was wonderful. And it's just, I wanted more. So it was so clear to me that we have to make a choice in our lives. What do we want? Because we cannot play victim. We can pretend we didn't choose. We can pretend we went along with everybody else. But the fact is we did go along. So what choice do we want to make in our lives? And mine was to get out of the projects, to get out of Southie, and to do so much more with my life and become so much more than I could become if I stayed in that environment. And it dawned on me, and then I was in religious life for almost 5 years, and we both, my Mother Superior and I, recognized that, and she had said to me, someday, Mother, you'll be Mother General, you're a born leader. And I thought, but that will be 30 years down the road, and will I survive till then? Do I want to do that? And I loved religious life. It was a gift beyond words I gave myself. But I realized at one point that being that involved in religion was so much more about following rules. Okay. It was so much more about being who you were supposed to be and presenting in a way you're supposed to be, which may have absolutely nothing to do with your value systems and who you are. And so for me, it was a choice of being a good nun or being a good Christian. And I felt compelled to leave religious life and become a good Christian. Or stay a good Christian, if you will. And so I went home and went back to Southie, and most of my friends were gone in numerous different locations, but many were gone. And so there was nothing in common anymore with the few I did find. So I decided to join the airlines, become an international airline stewardess, and see the world, because I had never been out of the projects other than to go into the convent. So I wanted to see the world. And if I was going to fly, why not do it internationally? And it was a whole new adventure. But I truly believe that for all of us, it isn't so much about becoming a pioneer. It isn't so much about doing outrageous. What is our dream? We are most happy. We are most balanced. We are most alive. We are most filled with passion and vibrancy and joy when we follow what our heart and soul calls us to. Because I truly believe that our soul speaks to us through our health, and our soul speaks to us through our dreams. That we are constantly being called. My faith system, I don't really practice religion as such, but I'm very spiritual. And my faith system truly is that we are embodied souls, that we are all intrinsically holy and good, every one of us. Some of us choose to live in fear. Some of us choose to live in anger. But underneath that fear and anger, we are intrinsically good. Not everybody chooses to connect with the essence of who they are. They prefer to stay in emotional overreaction. And that's a choice we make. But I believe that if we truly meditate each day, if we truly meditate each morning and each evening, even if it's just for 5 minutes, or centering or mindfulness, whatever word works for you, if we do that, mindfulness or meditation or whatever, we start to recognize who we are. We're blocking out all the stimulation of the outside world. We discover us. And when we do that, we discover this connection to our own embodied soul, our own essence, our own soul, core essence, whatever you want to call it. And in there, the dreams come and they lead you. And my one dream led me out of the projects, and my way out, it led me into religious life, which was a gift beyond words. It really taught me the difference between religion and spirituality. It taught me that I was lovable. It taught me that I was capable of anything if I truly wanted it. And then leaving, I wanted to see this world I've lived in that I never knew. And my dream was really to be exposed to people from all nationalities, all ethnicities, all faiths, just be exposed to the richness of the people on this planet. And flying internationally allowed me to do that. And every dream we have prepares us for the next. Every single dream prepares us for the next. I grew up in South Boston, where so many people walked with the brogue. They're from Ireland, from the old country, and they walked with a brogue. And I went to a French-Canadian community where many sisters only spoke French. And I had high school French taught by with the brogue. So I wasn't really good at this language. But when I was in an international airline student, she had to speak 2 languages, and French was my second language. And that prepared me for travel. Travel prepared me for so many things that would come later on in my life. And I think if every one of us look back over our lives, every dream we've ever had, every dream we've ever followed has given us strengths, has given us a recognition of who we are, has given us an understanding of ourselves and of the world in a way that is far greater than we had before we started following that dream.
So what do you say to the people who say, Dr. Dorothy, I hear what you're saying about following your dreams, but I can't see my dreams. I have no idea of what dream I have or what to follow. What do you say to people?
I would say, let's go back to the last time you truly felt alive.
Okay.
When was the last time you truly felt alive? And they'll say, I don't remember, so let's take some time. And when they go back and truly remember the last time they felt alive, they may say, but it was when I was out visiting with friends, and you can't make money doing that. You can't succeed at doing that. And my question is always, why? Why do you have a belief system that you can't become an entrepreneur, that you can't be successful at something that's your absolute passion? Some people, have absolutely loved river rafting. And what did they end up doing? They ended up working for or creating a business that has an outward bound camp. They ended up getting a job doing river raft, excursions with people. There's so many things you can do. Yes, you can't make $9 billion doing that necessarily unless you develop a series of locations in which you do this and you hire people and they work for you. But if that's your dream to have this as an extensive business, go for it. So the thought that, oh, but I can't make money doing what I love is an absolute belief system. So if that's your dream, follow it. But know that may be a dream for 5 years and you may outgrow it. That may be the perfect dream for the person you are today. But in 5 years after you've, just using that example, you've developed river rafting and taking people on tours through rivers, in the Grand Canyons or wherever it may be, someplace. And you may realize this was phenomenal. But what it taught me was I want to be in business. And a business I want to be in is this. River rafting wasn't a mistake. That was what prepared you for the dream that was to come. And you go, and so many people will say, but I realize I don't want to do this for the rest of my life. It was a mistake. No, it wasn't. Who were you when you started this dream? Let's look at who you are when you achieved it. What levels of personal growth have you developed? What level of social skill have you developed? What level of business awareness have you developed? You see, there's so much that goes with it. So when somebody says to me, I don't know, let's go back and start with your passion. Let's go back and start with what truly makes you feel alive. And then let's look at what you can do to support your own personal and professional growth and looking at what it is that you absolutely love. You'll be surprised what's possible.
I feel that a lot of people, including myself, at some point growing up, and I'm really talking about a lot of the baby boomers, not so much as my kids' generation. We had dreams, and then we opted for security. Many people have opted for security, and then somewhere along midlife, that discomfort, that feeling you get in your gut, or your soul starts calling you to do something. And people are looking for some type of way to fulfill their soul's goal at some point.
Mm-hmm.
But to start out that way, I remember even as a young person having a dream of doing a particular thing, but then, you're told to get serious about life, so you start going along, as you said earlier, and the dreams get lost. They're still in you somewhere.
They sure are.
And I always tell people, I don't care how old you get, what you do, how far you stuff it down, but that passion, that wanting, whatever's going on inside of you, it will never, ever go away.
Right. Because it's your soul calling you to become everything you're meant to be here on this journey. And so why would it go away? It's your life. It's who you are. It's what you're meant to do here. And we can go at it. There's no rule that says we have to do it at 17. At 17, we may not be ready to do it. But at 17, if you feel it and you allow yourself to own it, by the time you're old enough and ready to roll, you've got it.
Exactly. I know for my daughter's generation, for example, I got it later on in life. So I've always encouraged people from this point on to go with your dream, to go with your passion, to embody and embrace what you feel you were put here to do. But like you said, a lot of people say, I can't make money doing that. I can't make money doing that. And I always challenge them to say, as you did, that you can. I teach a workshop on turning your passion into your career. And I attract a lot of middle-aged people who are saying, you know what? I did that security thing. Now I'm ready to listen to my soul and what it's telling me to do.
Right. The price of that security thing is really, really high.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. And I've seen people and had clients who whose kids or they've gone to college to become whatever they were told to become, based on
right.
And then they get the law degree, and then they build the animal sanctuary once they're done. So I've seen a lot of that happen, because what gets in the way, when we're young and growing up, for many people, is that your parents or someone that has a pivotal impact on your life is telling you who you are and what you should be. And a lot of times we go along with that.
Right. Well, because we don't know what else to do.
Right.
And the fact is, if we truly claimed our ability to choose, we would also then have to take responsibility for the choice we made. And that's not always something. A lot of people want power, but without responsibility.
Yes. Okay.
And you can't have effective responsibility or power without the other. Becoming a very powerful person means you have the ability to respond to anything that's presented in your life. And the ability to respond is responsibility.
Mm.
They go hand in hand. So for those who want to have all the power, while somebody else in their life carries all the responsibility, there's a real deficit there. They're not getting away with something. They're actually losing a lot because of that refusal to grow, because of that refusal to learn how to handle the responsibility for the life choices that their soul is calling them to.
That's just so awesome that you say that. I think a lot of people today are really listening to their soul and what they're supposed to do on the planet. And they're really wanting to dig in deep inside to figure out what that might be.
Yeah, I agree. And unfortunately, so many don't know where to start or how to begin.
Exactly. But I love what you said earlier about when was the last time you felt alive? That is a very deep question to just think about that for a second.
Yeah. It's deep, and it's also absolutely freeing.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Because you can close your eyes or just really get quiet. Like you sit quiet and still and really think about that question.
Yeah. And be amazed at what you discover.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Absolutely amazed. There are so many people, I'm sure you know as well, that are so frightened of being alone.
Yes, I do know that.
So frightened of being with themselves that they've got to be busy. They've got to have people around. They've got to be active because they are terrified of having to face themselves. What a sad story.
So how do you begin to face yourself if that is in the way of you listening to your soul and what it's calling you to do?
Start by gently doing that with somebody you trust.
Okay.
And that's the piece. Do it with somebody you trust that could join with you and that you know is not going to judge you, that you know is going to give you permission simply to be you.
That is so important. That is so important because on a daily basis, we're judged all day long, especially if we're watching TV or, any advertising. We're constantly judged. So not feeling judged, I just hear that we could freely embrace who we are and what we would like. Because I know in the past when I was younger, I'd come up with an idea. And then I would ask 5 or 6, what do you think? What do you think? What do you think? And then if someone didn't like it, I would just lose that idea.
Right, as if they had more knowledge than you, as if they had more skills than you.
Exactly.
As if they had all the answers and you're the only limited one on the planet.
Exactly. But then when I got the awareness that, they're looking at life through their filter, their experience. So how would they know what I want? And I learned how to listen more to me, to what I thought, my higher self.
Congratulations to you.
Yeah. But I remember that. I was always asking people what they thought.
Yeah. And it's one thing to do that so you can get stimulated. another to ask them, so you get permission.
Exactly. And it was more of the permission, because somehow my insecurities or whatever was in the way of me really showing up.
Yeah.
and believing in myself would say someone else knew better than I.
Well, yeah, this is where I say, welcome to humanity, that you're as human as the rest of us to believe that everybody else is smarter or brighter or prettier or more experienced or whatever the case may be, depending upon what your particular wound is.
Right.
You know, that is for all of us, it's different. For some, it's everybody's prettier, everybody's nicer, everybody's smarter. It all depends on what your wound is, you know.
Exactly.
But the fact is, we're all in this together. We are absolutely, and certainly we're learning that this week, God willing, that we are all in this together. You know, that we all have to unite as one, whether it's, you know, both. And it's amazing to me and so sad that it takes extremes, whether we're talking Dallas or we're talking a situation in Paris last night. When people were running, they didn't care who was beside them. If they fell, they picked everybody up. They picked up strangers. They helped strangers run, whatever, whoever they were. We're all in this together. We're all people trying to stay safe. And people were helping each other without bias, without prejudice, just supporting everybody in running. And people just picking up children who were lost and running with them. They could find their parents later, just get them out of danger's way. Why do we need a crisis to know we are all one? We all have the same dreams. We all want the best for our children. We all want the best for ourselves. We all want to become more. We all just want to be here and thrive, give back, love, and be loved. You know, when you know that and you see it, we can stop comparing ourselves to other people. She is smart, or she has the right to her dream, or she's a harder worker. I have a girlfriend of mine who was a very hard worker, said to me the other day, I know I'm not getting this done because I'm such a slug. And I said, you are a slug. Of all the people in the world that I know, you're trying to tell me that you're lazy, you're a slug? Where did that message come from?
Right.
And that's what it is when it comes to following our dreams, when it comes to anything that says I'm not worthy, anything that says I'm not good enough. I may not be experienced enough, but all that I have to do then is get out and get experience. And I may not be as smart as so-and-so in a particular topic. So study that particular topic. It doesn't make him or her smarter. They were just exposed to something you weren't. So now study it, become exposed to it, and move on. There's no reason a dream can't be achieved. There is no reason that we can't become everything we are called to become unless we look for excuses. And for many of us, excuses become reasons, which become permission to stop.
Or even to start because of our insecurities. We use those excuses to hold on to, so we don't have to show up. We can just hide behind those excuses.
Right.
So
and have permission not to exist.
Exactly. And you were talking about becoming one. I really feel that. I actually saw what you were describing, people running and picking up on Twitter. I saw a video of that very scenario you were just talking about. But I also feel the volume on us getting that message, that lesson, or whatever you want to call it, is being turned up. And I think it'll be turned up more and more until we get it.
Thank God. And the sad part is, just making this personal. There are times you just feel like a feather touch and you know the right thing to do.
Right.
There's times the spirit slaps you in the side of the head and says, hey, Swifty, and you're still too busy to get it. And then you get hit by a 2x4, whether it's cancer or divorce or some crises. And then you say, oh, I think I ought to get it now.
Right. I hear you when you say that. I mean, I feel it. I'm experiencing it right now on the planet with everything that's going on. I do feel it'll get better if we all work together. I certainly am aligned with that notion, that not even that notion, but that feeling that we are one. And until we think that way and come together as one, all these things will continue to happen. All these disasters, the murders, the attacks, everything that we have been experiencing and witnessing for the past few years.
Right. So it really puts the onus on those of us who have chosen to grow. It truly does. I mean, we're being called to really step up and claim with responsibility what we know is truth. That we are being called to step up and become the leaders that are needed. We don't have the freedom anymore, or the right, if you will, to stagnate. We're being called to become active now to support the reality that we are all in this together. We're truly, I truly believe we're being, it's being made so obvious that we have to work harder and harder to justify not consciously working to bring things together.
Because anything else at this moment is just not good.
Right. It isn't.
It just isn't.
It isn't. And we've got to do it. Why wouldn't we? That baffles me. Why wouldn't we want to work together to make it all? You have to be choosing denial or ignorance to not recognize that when we work together, everybody wins.
But I feel when you say that, why wouldn't we? I do feel there's a massive amount of fear that's being pumped into the culture.
I accept that there is a massive amount of fear being pumped into the culture. But it also says then that those in the culture are choosing to live in fear.
Yes.
Because I think there are so many others of us who are not speaking up. And so we leave those who preach fear to do it. Because notice we're talking about fear, whether talking a large group or a small group, when it comes to our own dreams. Are we too frightened to stand up and claim our dream for our lives? Which is the same fear that we're frightened of standing up and claiming our dream for our culture, for our people. All right? It's the same difference. It's a fear that says, if I truly stand up and become powerful, I may be called to actually achieve. Not talk about I wish I could, but to actually achieve. And the fact is you would be called to achieve if you stood up for what you know is truth, if you stood up for your own dreams, if you stood up for helping another. Because I believe that one of the gifts of having our dreams, one of the gifts of having financial security, is it allows us that much more freedom to be philanthropic, that much more freedom to give back, that much more freedom to truly be who we're called to be.
Be who we're called to be, and to be of service without worrying about anything but what
Right.
we're here to do at that moment. Just having enough money, I don't know what that amount is, that we need in order to enable us to just do what we're called here to do.
Right.
So I really hear you when you say that. That is
Yeah.
so powerful.
But notice that we have to start by claiming our own dreams. Because until we claim our own dreams, until we own our own personal power to define the life we want to live, we don't have the inner strength to look at the much bigger picture and define what kind of culture we want to live in, define what kind of humanity we want to live in. We can't do the big picture without a solid personal foundation.
I hear you when you say that. And for anyone that's listening that hasn't been able to stand up and really look at their dreams, what do you recommend that they do? Something small so that they can look at what may be going on.
I honestly, and this may sound biased, but because it's been out there for so long, my first book on the market is dreams are only the beginning of becoming who you're meant to be. And in the backdrop of that is my biography, from the orphanage to the housing projects to the convent to the airlines to marriage to being a single mom and so forth. And the message that's in the forefront, however, is that every dream has a different purpose. Some dreams that we have are not meant to be lived. We're meant to work towards them because they cause us to grow beyond words. And when we're almost there, we realize there's actually something else that we're now aware of that's calling us. And I have gotten feedback for 10 years that that book has transformed the lives of people who didn't know they had permission to dream. So if people are readers, that book could be something that absolutely kicked them off that stuck spot and gave them the inspiration they needed, more than the motivation, the inspiration they needed to take off and start making things happen for themselves. Because sometimes we can't do it alone, and we can't do it in our head. We need to do it as we've watched somebody else walk that journey. We watch somebody else do it, and that gives us permission at times to go and make it happen. So that truly is it sounds promotional, but it's really my belief that may be what some people need to do in order to get off of their bottom and go make it happen. And if that book inspires them, it's the reason I wrote it.
Well, Dr. Dorothy, you've certainly given us inspiration with your life story, your wisdom, and how we can open the door to our own dreams. So I want to thank you for being here in this moment, talking to the listeners and myself on Balanced Living for Busy Professionals.
You're so welcome, and thank you. And for a professional, we've got the gifts that are needed on this planet. And with that, we truly have to own them. Own your gifts by owning your dreams, by owning your balance. Because if you are going to live your dream, you have to be balanced in the first place, energetically, emotionally, spiritually, physically. And you'll find a way to make all of that happen. All right. Thank you so very, very much.
And thank you. And if you want to know more about Dr. Dorothy's website, her book, all that information will be on the Balanced Living for Busy Professionals website in the show notes. And if you found something of value from this episode of Balanced Living for Busy Professionals, I want you to find 2 people in your life to share this insightful episode with. Show them how to take their phones, go on the website, and download this episode and any of the episodes so that they can also get tools and tips to help inspire them and yourselves to create the life you truly want. And you can also leave a voicemail on the podcast page, Balanced Living for Busy Professionals, or send me an email. I want you to be a part of the Balanced Living for Busy Professionals community.
Thank you for listening to Balanced Living for Busy Professionals. This podcast is sponsored by DianeRandallConsults.com. If you like this show, the best way to support it is by leaving 5-star feedback on iTunes. And please feel free to email your questions, comments, and suggestions to feedback@DianeRandallConsults.com. Until next week, namaste.